Hello! In this video we will be creating abstract protractor suns. For this project we will be working with mathematical concepts and terminology. We will also be working with color blending techniques. For this project you will need a surface to work on, a piece of newspaper or scratch paper to keep mess off your table. We will be drawing on a 9 by 12 piece of drawing paper. This one is manila in color. You need a pencil with an eraser, a permanent black marker. This is a Sharpie fine point, oil pastels, a protractor, a ruler, baby oil, Q-tips, and access to a color wheel will be helpful. Ultimately, in this project, you will have choices to make regarding the colors you use. However, before we get there, we need to prepare our paper with our protractor and creating rays. To begin this project, I have my paper laid out in front of me horizontally. I will then place my protractor on my paper. It is up to you whether you offset your protractor or center it. We will initially be working in pencil because if there's an error that is made, I can always correct my pencil marks with the eraser. My ruler end of my protractor, the straight edge, is flush with the bottom of my paper. However, I'm going to move it up just a little bit and I'm going to make a mark at the 3-inch mark. Now, the number 3 is not on this protractor. However, I can tell by the mark of 2 right there and the mark of 4 right here, that is the 3-inch mark. I'm then going to go ahead and trace the outside edge of my protractor. Next, leaving my protractor there, I'm going to be placing marks on certain degrees. I will be counting by 20. 20 degree mark, 40 degree mark, 60 degree mark, 80 degree mark, 100 degree, 120, 140, and ending at 160. I can now safely remove my protractor from my paper. I'm done making my marks or my degree marks on my paper, so I can move it aside. It is now at this point that I have my protractor removed. I can go ahead and start marking out my rays of my sun. Using my ruler as a straight edge will help me accurately render my degrees of these rays. I will be planting one end of my ruler right here in that initial 3-inch mark that we made. That's going to be my vertex, and aligning it with the degree marks I made. Careful to hold my ruler in such a way that my fingers are not hanging off the edge and that I'm holding my ruler in the middle. If I'm only holding it at one end, it might drift on me when I get my pencil to that end. Something to note, that when I drew these lines, I did not draw them inside the dome of my protractor shape. I only drew my lines on the outside. I laid my ruler on my paper. It did align that vertex. However, I didn't start making those lines until I was on the outside of that arch or the dome that my protractor made. I can now move on to the Sharpie portion of this activity. Since I started my drawing with pencil, it made it possible for me to fix any errors. However, I'm not seeing any errors on my paper. But it is always a good idea to start any drawing with pencil and eraser so you can refine your composition. Had I started with Sharpie, I couldn't take any errors away or correct them, so it is good that I saved it for this step to go ahead and lay them on top of my pencil marks. I'm going to use my ruler and my protractor still, however, to make sure that my marker follows those lines more correctly. I am now done with my pencil, my Sharpie, my protractor, and my ruler. I can now begin with the coloring portion of this activity. I have placed my placemat underneath this paper because things will get messy. Before you begin coloring, you need to make decisions about what kind of colors you plan on using. These colors right here is part of what we call a cool color scheme. Blues, violets, and greens. This paper right here is what we would call a warm color scheme. Yellows, oranges, reds, there's even a bit of little peach. This composition right here is a combination of colors. However, you should be very cautious with using multiple colors such as this. You need to be aware of what colors blend well together and which ones do not. This is why a color wheel would be helpful. Colors that are next to each other on a color wheel will blend well together. Colors that are opposite of each other on a color wheel will not blend well. They will, in fact, neutralize each other, and you will have more of a brown or grayish color, and you may not have the appearance you desire. So it is best to mix colors that are neighbors to each other on the color wheel. The only exception I have with that is my black and white. Well, you don't see that on my color wheel, but they do blend well together. White can blend very well with other colors as well. That would be called what we call a tint. Black will mix well with other colors additionally. However, that would be a darker image, and that's what we would call a shade. Now for this composition, I'm not going to go with a specific color scheme, just because I want you to see the various options you can have when coloring. Going to start with this area in the middle. Now, something to consider when we're doing this is I want you to keep in mind so things don't get overly complex. Only 2 colors per space. So this space right here, I can use 2 colors. In this segment, 2, this segment, 2, this segment, 2, and so on. When coloring, I'm going to try and stay inside my lines. However, I do not have to color very darkly. The baby oil is going to create a interesting effect, and I do not have to worry about too much paper showing through. Now that I've outlined the space, I'm going to shift my direction on my stroke. This is going to be helpful when it comes time for blending. Notice that I've left off the color in somewhat jagged strokes. I can now go in with my second color. Red and pink blend well together in that this is what we call, pink is the tint of red. Again, jagged, rough, not evenly blended. I can now move on to my other segments. Light green, left it off jagged, dark green. Half the space one shade, half the other. Lighter violet, darker violet. Lighter blue, darker blue. Red orange, orange. A brighter yellow and a darker yellow. Peach and orange. Blue, green, and blue. Red and orange. Yellow, green, and yellow. It is now time for me to use the baby oil. I will be working with lighter colors and then going to darker colors. At the end, I may show you a little bit of blending in white and black just so you can see what it does to a color. It is very important though, keep in mind when you're working lightest to darkest. I do recommend one end be for your warmer colors and then another end of your Q-tip for your cooler colors. Taking a little bit of baby oil, putting it on the Q-tip, blending up and down. I don't need a whole bunch of baby oil on my Q-tip. I will keep blending with the amount that I have on the Q-tip until it is dry. Only when the Q-tip is dry do I go back and get more baby oil. Blending in the direction of my ray. Already I can see a huge difference between the sections that I've used the baby oil and the sections that I have not. Things have blended and they have a gradual turn into the other color. Well, this composition is complete. You can tell I use my finger a little bit to kind of wipe away any accidental crossover of color. I will now show you what happens when you mix black and white with the color. Before beginning on this prepared sun that I've already done, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I'm going to be saving the black for last. The reason why is the black is so saturated and I'll be getting fingerprints all over my composition if I'm working with it at the beginning. I will save it for the end. Notice that I'm using white first since it is my lightest color. And I'm going to be using it in multiple places, so I might as well finish it off using it in that space before selecting any others. Okay, I am ready for blending. Just like before, I'm going to be working with my lighter color combinations first and then moving on to my darker color combinations towards the end. My black, of course, is the darkest, so I will be working with that very closely to the end. My Q-tip started to fall apart on me, so I'm going to go ahead and switch that Q-tip. I also accidentally did that blue before that green, so I'm going to go ahead and begin my lightest to darkest cycle again. Switching the end of my Q-tip, I will be doing this black and white combination. I do not want to pick up any color inside this area, so just going with the pure black and white right here. And there you have it. Depending on the colors you use, maybe the tints and shades, you have entirely different compositional looks. Think about what your color choices will be and what color schemes you may employ in your abstract Protractor Sun art. Thank you for watching.